So did I dye my hair pink? No. And did I chop it all off? No, I didn't. Wendy, why have you got a pink wig on then? Well, number one, it's fun. And number two, it's functional in an art studio. Yes, let me explain. I'm going to show all the surprising and secret, currently secret, not secret for long, things that I have in my studio that may seem completely un-art related at first. But I think if we delve a little bit deeper, it might make good sense. And indeed, some of you might not need me to dive a little bit deeper because you're already as bonkers as me and understand completely what helps your own creativity, keeps you inspired, keeps you giggling as well, which is very important, especially at the moment in our chaotic world. Talked about that, haven't we? So apart from the fact that maybe I should cut my hair and dye it pink, or another colour indeed, because I quite fancy lilac as well, through this whole decluttering and organising process and fine-tuning the things that I want in here, I also realised that it's really lovely to have artistic props, which are indeed useful if you want to sort of dress up and do some reference photos and things like that. So it all comes in very handy. I have a little, what I call my dressing up box, so maybe I'll show you a few things in there. So I'm getting taken out today, so yeah, dressed up a little bit and not out of my dressing up box, but I haven't worn this skirt, my very favourite skirt for a long time, so out of my donkeys, folks, don't fake me shock.
That's well pretty.
Really hazy though, I don't think the camera's picking it up.
You see that?
Yeah, it's jutting out. Are we going in there? No, not going there. Can we have that on the official then?
We are following somebody who is got to be the worst driver we have ever followed. Braking at every corner, every car coming the other way, doing 30 miles an hour, if that, and a 50. Frustrating.
Been following them for, well, most of the way. Officially, the worst.
Worst?
In your life?
In my, I would actually say in my life.
Yeah?
Yeah. Is it when we're in there?
We're going up there.
It's a pretty good entrance, isn't it? That's good, too good.
It's a castle.
Big boy there. It's very Welsh.
Have a nice evening. Thanks, buddy.
Great stuff. But I also believe that if we have things, props if you like, in our creative spaces that we personally find inspiring. So you might not have a pink wig, you might have something else. I, for example, acquired a bowler hat after my visit to the Toulouse-Lautrec exhibition that I showed you, I believe, in the last video. So this is a little studio prop which I can dance around and dress up in if I want to, because I just absolutely love to dance around as well. And if I wasn't so adverse to the whole being sweaty thing, I'm sure I could have been a dancer. Anyway, I don't like getting super sweaty, so that's probably not going to work for me, is it? No. I think it helps to focus on not just the one thing that you might be doing. So I'm a painter and I like to do mixed media and collage, oil paintings and watercolours and drawings and all sorts of things and journaling. But I don't just do that. I've just recently begun crocheting again, so that's another little creative avenue, and I love to dance. So if you've been around here a little while, you might have noticed I dance around. I'm not a professional. I don't know what I'm doing. I just do it for the pure joy, fun, and it makes me happy. So I think if I can have some items in the studio that invoke that kind of playfulness, that joy, that inspiration, then it shifts the energy for a start. It makes you giggle, which is always always a good thing, and often it's useful to have some artistic props in your studio. So for example, I unpacked all my glass bottles. These are also props. Those are to set up a still life if I want to practice drawing glass objects, which is a really good exercise, I have to say. But also their second job is to look really pretty and inspire me right in my little officey space. I'm not a big advocate of having stuff that you don't love and that you don't need, and I don't want to have useless clutter around, so I have fine-tuned everything. But I do definitely believe in having a little fun. And if you think about the Bagua map for in the Feng Shui, the creativity corner is also the child playful corner. That's all bunched together. So if you think about children and playing and that kind of thing, and I think we lose our element of play, and it's so important to inject that back into what we do, don't you think? Especially when we kind of hit a little bit of procrastination, or we hit a wall and we have some artist block or some hesitation, or we're, you know, doing that thing where we feel the fear of creating. So if we can get a little bit outside of our usual headspaces, and you know, sometimes props help with that. So anyway, that hopefully shows how a little thing like for me, a pink wig can make me feel fun, frivolous, out of my usual headspace, and has now shifted my energy into a really playful and joyful place. Yes. So, before I get into showing you what's in my dressing up box, because I am going to show you a few things in there. Yes, I'm going to put them on the internet. I am, yes. We're all allowed a little bit of quirky, a little bit of crazy inspiration, aren't we? And as long as it is our authentic joys, so it's no good, is it, if it was me to say, be in denial about the fact I'd really love to dress up in a pink wig and a bowler hat and a little skirt and dance around, in my ballet shoes. If I'm going to deny myself what really, really brings me joy, not all the time, because I'm not doing that, while I'm painting and creating and stuff, but I do enjoy having that kind of lightness and having that kind of fun. So whatever that is for you, so you have to be authentic and true to yourself. You can't be in denial, even if things are a little bit embarrassing. Yes, because you can guarantee that someone else either likes something really similar, even to the point their little quirky fancy might be more embarrassing than yours. So it really doesn't matter. And also, the bottom line is you don't have to do what I'm doing and put it out on the internet. No. So I mentioned a minute ago collections, and I just want to show you a few collections that I've got. And I don't think it's really necessary to explain why I've got things. Teapots bring me joy. And so I have a little collection of teapots which is growing. And actually this little one I've had right back in when we had a house, so before van life days, and I only found that the other day by going through my boxes. Things like that are really fun to draw. They're quirky shapes, so it's fantastic for still lives, and also they're really pretty to look at. So if we're thinking about sensory needs, it's really nice to have pretty things to look at, isn't it? Another thing I really, really like is dangly things. So I have all sorts of things. Fairy lights, yes, but all sorts of dangly things from my windows. And I've had these kind of mobile things for absolutely years and years and years. I've even started to grow a little collection of dangly things from here. That was from my mum. Cute. So as well as the bottles and the teapots and the little dangly things, I also like to collect some flowers, and sometimes they're fresh, but I also like to have a collection of dried flowers in the studio, fakey flowers and dried flowers, because no matter what the season or what day it is, I can always grab some inspiration from something floral, the shapes of them, the colours of them. And I found these a few months ago now, these enormous, they look like giant geraniums or hydrangeas or something, but I just find them so joyful and so fun to draw. And I also have some more. I've got a few dotted everywhere, so I've always got some to dip into. I really love to be sparked off by little memories as well. I find it really inspiring. And one of the little things I've got here that I can show you is, focus please, this little teeny tiny bottle of shells. And these shells I literally collected from a lovely beach in Crete when we lived there during van life days. And I collected each and every one, every trip I went. And I love each and every little shell, some real little treasures in there, and some teeny tiny ones as well. So I keep those just to remind me of that perfect beach. And it literally brings back the feeling of me being there again. I love it. Little memories, all safe in their little bottle, yes. It doesn't take up any space, but I allow a few special items that bring me joy. So the objects I choose to be in here are really important, and I've noticed that more and more through this decluttering and organising process. I don't just want to stimulate my visual senses as well, which is obviously really important as a visual artist. I also like, oh, I've just found a little shell there, to put that one back, hang on a sec. I don't just want to stimulate my visual senses as well, which is obviously really important as a visual artist. I also like to evoke my sense of smell, aromatherapy if you like. And I have a few different ways of doing that. I have one of these little scent diffusers where I can put essential oils in, and you put a little bit of water. This one lights up as well, so it's even extra fun. And then it plugs in into an electric socket, and there's a little light, and also it puffs smoke out of here. So I can change the colours, and it's just really fun, and it's a little bit covered in paint, I have to say. It's not sponsored or affiliated or anything like that. You can get all sorts of different types of these, and they just puff out the smoke intermittently or constantly. It's up to you in the settings, and you can add in all sorts of different essential oils. I like to add, my favourite at the moment is grapefruit. I absolutely love grapefruit. And speaking of grapefruit, I also have a little spray. This is actually spring water from our local spring, so it's really nice water. So sometimes I spray it on me and it smells amazing. I wish I had smell-o-vision for you. But I use this for a couple of different things. Sometimes I use it to cleanse because it can get a little bit hot and sticky in here in the summer, even with the windows open. And so just a little spritz of that and stand in front of the fan can really cool you down. Or I just, spritz it on me and just refresh. Grapefruit and citrus oils are also really good for cleaning, so I use them to clean the table of my shop and my art table and any of the surfaces indeed. And this does a couple of things, because not only does it clean and disinfect, it also smells delicious. So if I spray my art table with that and give it a little wipe in between creating, then I get the smell as well, so I love that. And then finally I use some incense. So I just come in, I make sure my windows are open, or it can get a little bit overwhelming. Smells delicious. Again, I wish you could have smell-o-vision, but I just light one of these and then wiggle it around the room sometimes to get the smoke into all the dusty corners, and it just refreshes the space and makes it smell really yummy. You can get all sorts of different types. I've got a really nice rose one in here which smells delicious, and yeah, all sorts in there. I'm not a big fan of the artificial air fresheners or anything like that. I don't think they're very good for us actually, so I don't have anything like that. I like fresh air from the window, but I also like to add a few different aromatherapy smells as well. Smells also evoke feelings and memories, don't they? So that's really helpful as a tool in my art journaling process as well. And if I remember rightly, I think it's the last sense that we actually lose before we pass over. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong on that one though. Isn't it funny how sometimes you can walk into a space or a room and you'll smell something and it'll feel so familiar. Maybe it's your grandmother's perfume or something that your mum used to put in her hair, and it just evokes that memory and takes you right back. So this can be a really useful tool for processing emotions as well. And sometimes I have a comforting smell. You can sort out your smells so you can have joyful ones, relaxing ones, ones that bring you comfort. I have a little teeny tiny tube of germaline which I take with me everywhere, and I just find it really, really comforting. So if I'm feeling really stressed, I've got my lavender which I use as well, but I also sometimes I put a tiny bit of germaline on my hand and just rub it in to smell it, because it reminds me of when I was young and I used to maybe fall over on my knees and scrape my knees, and my mum would sit me on the kitchen worktop, wash my knee, wash my wound, and then put some germaline on. So that smell makes me feel safe and calm, and it just takes me back there immediately. I love that.
Another lovely way to enter the world of imagination is to actually visit somewhere inspiring. It doesn't really matter where it is, but can be especially wonderful if it's somewhere you wouldn't usually go.
Start over there in the drawing room, then come out of there, make your way to the hall, then go left, left, left.
Easy.
Then come back out into the hall.
Thank you
All right,
so much.
enjoy.
We drove a few hours to visit this fairy tale castle on the southwest coast. Dunster Castle is a very old medieval castle with 1,000 years of history. A fortress in the Norman conquest, it saw civil war, sieges, and had extensive remodelling over the centuries from the Lutterell family, who owned the house from 1376. It is now owned by the National Trust. In 1680, Colonel Francis married the wealthy Dorset heiress Mary Tregonwell. They spent enthusiastically, and one addition to the castle was a carved staircase. It was probably carved by Edward Pierce, one of the best craftsmen of the period. I think there's a deeper meaning and potential benefit in the idea of a dressing up box. Could it be a kind of therapy, a return to the imagination we had as a child? Even as grown-ups, we should still feel free to exist from time to time within the world of the imagination. What do you think? A world without walls, somewhere we can expand our ideas, pretend and make believe. It's a sad truth that we lose our ability to imagine when we grow up. There seems to be no room in our culture for adults to have any seemingly frivolous playtime. It's certainly not easy to return to that magical freedom and innocent state. But should we be allowed to play as adults? Should we make room for it? Is it a worthy therapy, a way to process emotions, hard or soft ones, and also a way to blast the fun and joy back into our days, simply by the act of trying on the dresses, hats, shoes, wigs, for example? It can certainly help with problem solving too, in the sense it gives us the chance to put on the shoes of someone completely different, feel how they may be feeling, experience the world from another perspective. Temporarily trying on how things might feel. What revelations could be born out of that? I've never been to stage school, but I certainly remember drama class at school and how getting into character could really help me empathise with different scenarios. My thoughts are that a dressing up box can be a wonderfully safe capsule for us to outburst any hidden wishes, and that kind of self-exploration and development can help us find out who we are better and discover what it is we actually want out of life. So I say let it out, experience the freedom and embrace the unexpected surprises we may uncover and learn about ourselves. Often in my little world I am a dancer on a theatre set, pirouetting perhaps under indigo skies or across a forest stage under a canopy of spotlight stars. And once there, I am not of this time or world, and letting go of current reality can be a lovely breathing space to rest the weary mind, which also helps me get into my creative flow for my own artwork. Sometimes I have to admit I feel slightly vulnerable to share these seemingly silly things, but then I think to myself that's where the connections happen. And even though we are all unique, we also have many things in common too. Seeing someone else's silly side can be a wonderful thing, especially if it makes us smile or helps us feel not so alone within our own silliness, if you like. So my advice, if you feel like it, is to give yourself permission to create a space for your own imaginings. And maybe that is in the shape of your own dressing up box, whatever that may look like for you. And if you haven't created one yet, then perhaps make a wish list of what would go in yours.
So let me show you a few things then that are in my dressing up box. I have got a few fairy skirts, I have to admit. So if you've been around here a little while, you'll know I love the fairies. So of course, I've got some little fairy skirts as well, and this is one of my favourites. So this is thrifted. I think it says whistles in it, but it's a really lovely colour inside as well. How pretty is that? But it's got so many layers, so I really, really love this one. Also in here I have another skirt. I do have a little bit of a skirt fetish. This is my mermaid skirt. So I've got a fairy skirt. Of course I have to have a mermaid skirt. So it's my little glittery thing. Now I don't wear this without leggings, I have to say, because I know it's very, very minuscule. But yeah, it's fun to dress up and sparkle at the same time. So that's my little mermaid skirt. I have a couple of kind of little masky things. So I've got this one. These are just for fun, but again, they could be, you know, for a photo shoot that I do. And then I've got some reference pics, which are really fun to paint and draw. So if you're a figurative artist like me, I like to draw figures and faces. I can put on some different things or dress up for different things. And yeah, it's just fun. And also inspiring, and I can create lots of different moods and emotions and storytelling through my dressing up box. I've got a few more ideas as well of additions I want to make. So quite recently I bought the pink wig, and a few weeks ago when I visited the gallery I acquired my bowler hat. I have a few hats as well. I also have a pair of ballet shoes, which I actually usually hang up in my studio, but I do wear these and I do dance about in them as well. But they are lovely things to draw as well. So it has multiple purposes, and that, as we know, is a very useful thing in a creative space. Yes. These actually hang up here, so I'll pop those back. So perhaps one day when I've acquired a few more things for my dressing up box, my props, I'll give you a full tour and dress up and maybe show you how I use the props in my work as well. A few other things to show you before I go. So I just need my glasses for this one again. I keep putting my glasses down and then I always forget where they are. And even though now I've cleared my studio, I still, because I can't see when I haven't got my glasses on, it's really hard to find them. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you have that trouble. So just a couple of ideas to show you before I go. I love to have some really unexpected, maybe surprising types of books in the studio. I find them inspiring to flick through, but I also like drawing things from them as well. So one of the things I love to have is some of my favourite children's books. So for example, this one. This one's by Lauren Child and Polly Borland, Princess and the Pea. She also did another book which I really, really love, which is all about a rat. But they're kind of paper doll-like, which I really, really love. I love my paper doll type things. There's a little bit about how they made the book as well, which is really, really fascinating. I don't use that as reference material, but I do use this one for reference material. This is a little second-hand book I got, and it's all about stage and film design. And it's absolutely brilliant. So there's a lot of fashion in here. There are sketches, drawings. It's a Cecil Beaton and Charles Spencer book. Charles Spencer is a recognised authority on the theatrical arts during the first half of the 20th century. His perspective analysis of Cecil Beaton's work for the theatre joins his warmly received biographies and were an exciting and important contribution to the history of contemporary fashion and stage design. So there are some colour pics in here as well. Give you a quick flick through. But a couple of weeks ago, you might remember I drew, I think, Jane Fonda. She was from a different book actually, but I would actually use these as reference material. A little bit of Audrey on the front as well. And then the other type of book that I absolutely love, which might not be quite as surprising, are poetry and prose and inspiring little tales. And this is a lovely book, which somebody actually in the comments on YouTube a few years ago recommended I got. And thanks so much for that recommendation, because it is a truly lovely, inspiring little book. A little synopsis says, with an inimitable combination of unselfish grace and pristine lucidity, Anne Morrow Lindbergh, one of the most beloved best-selling books of our time, reveals her compelling, unforgettable meditations on youth, age, love and marriage, solitude, peace and contentment, as she set them down during a brief vacation by the sea. The thoughts in this book are wound about the sea, a beach and an island. The same elements have interwoven through Anne Morrow Lindbergh's life. As a girl, she spent summers with her family on a Maine island. After her marriage to Charles Lindbergh in 1929, she accompanied him on his survey flights around the North Atlantic to launch the first transoceanic airlines. And then it goes on to tell you a little bit more about her. But it's a really lovely little book. And if you've been around here a while, you know I like to dabble a bit writing poetry and little fairy tales myself. So yeah, I love to have that kind of inspiration around me. And then last but not least, I love to collect quotes from other places, but also little thoughts that I have. So for example, something that I just randomly found in my little pile over here was, and I am making space for more of what I love and no to stuff that drains my energy. So that's exactly what I've been doing the last few months now, really, because you know that I've been doing this for quite a long time. I also found this little one, all about free spirits. We are the ones with the messy hair, the dirty feet, and that wild sparkle in our eyes. We belong amongst the wildflowers, listening to the wind or with our toes dipped in the sea. We embrace the arts. Creativity is often our universal language, yet even with fire in our blood, unbridled spirit, and wild heart, we do not all wander. Some have found freedom in one place, home. And that's really meaningful for me because I wandered and wandered. The unexpected gypsy. I didn't expect to do that. And we had years and years of van life and wandering and not having a home. And so I realised that that wasn't for me. But there's a whole other video about that I did quite a while ago. Anyway, it's lovely to have these stuck around somewhere that's really obvious that you can see them for the little reminders. Or I think I'm going to have my notice board somewhere and then I can just peg them all over the place. I shall definitely be sticking these two up, for sure. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you have some random, surprising and unexpected items in your own creative spaces. I would love to know and hear from you what kind of things you have. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for keeping me company and watching the video. Try to keep your light shining bright and I will see you really, really soon in the next video. Bye for now.